I'm 32, male, and I've always been the kind of guy who avoids drama. I believe in fairness, clear communication, and mutual respect in relationships. That said, my fiancée, let's call her F, had a different way of looking at things. She thrived on attention, especially in social settings. At first, I thought it was just her being outgoing, but over time, I started seeing cracks beneath the surface. This story is about how one seemingly ordinary night changed everything, exposing her entitlement and manipulative behavior for what it really was. It started at a dinner party F insisted we attend. She had been talking about it for weeks. Her friend M was hosting, and the guest list was filled with people F wanted to impress. I wasn't exactly thrilled. Socializing with strangers wasn't my idea of a good time, but I wanted to be supportive. Besides, F assured me it would be fun. When we arrived, the atmosphere was lively. Clinking glasses, laughter, and the hum of people chatting in groups. F slipped into her social butterfly mode almost immediately, flitting from one group to another. I hung back, nursing a drink and making polite small talk when necessary. Everything seemed normal until the moment it didn't. It was during dinner that things took a sharp turn. The conversation at the table had shifted to relationships, and F, with a glass of wine in hand, decided it was a good time to put me on the spot. You know, she began with a laugh, I have to work so hard to keep him in line. He's so practical, let's say. Her tone was playful, but there was a sharpness to it that made me uncomfortable. Everyone chuckled, and I forced a smile, brushing it off as harmless banter. But she didn't stop there. Like, just the other day, I told him we should upgrade my engagement ring. You know, something more fitting for the kind of couple we are. And he was all, "What's wrong with the one you have?" She mimicked my voice in an exaggerated way, making everyone laugh. Can you believe that? I mean, guys, don't we deserve the best? The room erupted in agreement, and suddenly all eyes were on me. I felt my stomach knot. This wasn't a private conversation. She was airing this out in front of people I barely knew, trying to paint me as cheap or unromantic. Worse, it wasn't even the full story. A few weeks earlier, F had indeed brought up upgrading the ring. The one I'd given her wasn't flashy, but it was a beautiful piece I'd saved for months to buy. I told her I wanted to spend within my means and focus on building our future together. House, savings, maybe kids one day. She had rolled her eyes and dismissed the idea, but I didn't think she'd go as far as using it to humiliate me publicly. I leaned forward, keeping my voice steady. Actually, F, I think the ring is symbolic of commitment, not a price tag. But I'm sure you explained that part too, right? The room went quiet. F's face froze for a second before she laughed it off, waving her hand. Oh, he's so serious sometimes. Always logical. That's why I love him, though. But the damage was done. The tension at the table was palpable, and I could tell some of the guests were uncomfortable. I decided to excuse myself and head to the bathroom, taking a moment to collect my thoughts. When I returned, things escalated. F had taken it upon herself to keep the spotlight on me, joking about how I was a homebody and how she always had to drag me out to events like this. At one point, she even joked about my job, saying I wasn't ambitious enough compared to the husbands and boyfriends of her friends. That was it for me. F, can I talk to you for a second? I said, standing up. My tone left no room for argument. She hesitated, but followed me into the hallway. The moment we were out of earshot, I turned to her. What the hell are you doing? What? She said, feigning innocence. I'm just joking. Lighten up. No, I said firmly. You're not joking. You're tearing me down in front of people. Why? To make yourself look good? To get a laugh? What's the point? Her expression shifted, defensive, irritated. Oh, come on. You're being overly sensitive. It's just how I am. People love it. Well, I don't. I shot back. And I'm not going to sit there while you humiliate me to entertain your friends. She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. You're blowing this out of proportion. Everyone knows I'm just messing around. Do they? I asked. Because it feels like you're more concerned with impressing them than respecting me. And if that's the case, maybe we need to rethink this whole engagement. That hit a nerve. Her face turned red, and she snapped, "Oh, don't be dramatic. You're not going anywhere." I stepped back, suddenly realizing the truth in her words. She didn't think I'd leave. She thought I'd sit there, take her digs, and let her manipulate the narrative because that's what I'd always done. But not this time. Without another word, I walked back into the dining room, grabbed my coat, and told the host I wasn't feeling well. F followed me, hissing under her breath, "If you leave, don't bother coming back." I paused, looking her dead in the eye. "That's entirely up to you." And then I walked out. The days that followed were a whirlwind. F blew up my phone with calls and texts, alternating between apologizing and accusing me of overreacting. I ignored most of them, needing time to process. Eventually, she showed up at my apartment, demanding we talk. "You're really going to throw everything away over a few jokes?" she said, her voice dripping with entitlement. "This isn't just about the jokes, F," I said calmly. "It's about respect. You don't seem to have any for me, and honestly, I'm not sure you ever did." She scoffed. "That's ridiculous. I love you. I put so much into this relationship. And yet," I replied, "you were willing to tear me down in front of your friends for attention. That's not love. That's selfishness." She tried to argue, but I stood my ground. Eventually, she left, furious that her usual tactics weren't working. A few weeks later, I found out she'd been telling mutual acquaintances that I was controlling and insecure, trying to spin the narrative in her favor. What she didn't realize was that I had kept records of her texts and messages, including one where she admitted to pushing my buttons to get a reaction. When one of her friends confronted me, I calmly shared the evidence. The tide turned quickly. People began to see through her facade, and her social circles started distancing themselves. Meanwhile, I focused on moving forward, grateful to have dodged a bullet. Looking back, walking away from that dinner party was one of the best decisions I've ever made. It was painful, sure, but it was also freeing. I realized I deserve someone who builds me up, not tears me down. F's entitlement and manipulation may have left her speechless that night. But for me, it was the beginning of reclaiming my self-respect. So yeah, if you're ever in a similar situation, remember this. You're not obligated to tolerate disrespect, no matter how much you love someone. Sometimes walking away is the strongest move you can make. If you enjoyed reading this, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, I've got more stories where this came from.